I lied about being rich to win her heart. Now she wants to meet my family. Story by Truth Be Told. I never planned to lie. But when I saw her standing outside the cafe in her white dress, laughing with her friends like the world owed her nothing but joy, I lost my grip on honesty. Her name was Amira. She was elegance without trying, the kind of girl who made you forget your circumstances. And I was a broke mechanic wearing borrowed clothes and borrowed confidence. I had no car, no business, and no future that looked anything like hers. But I wanted her to look at me like I was worth something. So I lied. I told her I was a real estate investor on a break from managing property abroad. I said I like to keep a low profile, stay grounded, and avoid the flashy lifestyle that came with wealth. She smiled and said, "That's rare." I smiled too, but it burned. For weeks, I lived that lie. We went on dates I couldn't afford, I paid for dinner with money I didn't have. And every time she looked at me with those trusting eyes, I felt like a criminal. But I loved her. Genuinely. Deeply. And I was sure that if she knew the truth, she'd never speak to me again. I thought I had time to tell her. I thought maybe love would be enough to fix the cracks. But one Saturday afternoon, as we sat watching the sunset from a hotel rooftop I'd bribed my friend to get me into, she leaned her head on my shoulder and whispered, "I want to meet your family." I froze. "My family?" She nodded. "Yes. You've met my mom. It's only fair. I want to know where you come from." I lied again. Said they were all out of the country for a business trip. She didn't question it, at first. But that night, guilt swallowed me whole. I stared at my ceiling in my cramped room, wondering how long until it all came crashing down. And then it did. The next morning, Amira showed up. At my workplace. My real life. She stood at the entrance of the mechanic shop, dressed in confusion and heartbreak. She held up her phone. "Someone sent me this," she said. It was a photo of me, in my dirty overalls, working on a client's car. "Is this where you work?" I didn't speak. I couldn't. She looked at me like a stranger. "Why did you lie?" Her voice cracked. Wasn't I enough for the truth? And just like that, the world I built on lies collapsed, and the woman I loved turned away, tears in her eyes, betrayal in her silence. I didn't leave the workshop that day. I just stood there, watching her car drive away like it was taking a piece of my soul with it. I had nothing left to say, because everything I ever said to her had been built on a lie. The days that followed were a blur of silence and shame. Amira didn't block me. That would have been kinder. She simply stopped responding. No texts. No calls. Just digital silence. I tried once, just once, to show up at her place. But her mother answered the door, looked me in the eye, and said, "You're not the man we thought you were." I walked away like a ghost. But the worst part wasn't losing her. It was knowing that I'd never deserved her love in the first place. I should have let her go the day she said yes to dinner. A week passed. Then two. And just when I started trying to rebuild the pieces of my shattered pride, she walked into the garage. Again. This time, she wasn't alone. There was a man beside her, tall, wealthy looking, confident in the way real money makes people confident. I was under a car, tightening a bolt, when I saw her heels first. Then her voice, clear, cold, businesslike. "This is the mechanic I told you about. He's good." I slid out from under the car, heart in my throat. Amira looked at me like I was furniture. Something old and irrelevant. "Hello, Jamal," she said, her voice flat. "Amira," I said, standing up, wiping my greasy hands on my overalls. "I didn't expect." "No," she cut in. "You didn't." The man beside her, whose hand was resting on her lower back, gave me a nod. "Can you fix a bent axle and realign the wheels by Friday?" "Yeah," I muttered. "I can." "Great," Amira said, turning away. They left without another word. I stood there, my hands trembling, the wrench heavy in my grip. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because she had moved on, but because I hadn't. The next morning, I made a decision. I would go to her. Not to beg, not to explain, but to finally tell her everything. Not the fake version. The truth. My real name. My past. My struggle. Because even if I lost her forever, she deserved that much from me. And maybe, just maybe, I deserved to stop hiding. I waited outside her estate for hours. The guards didn't want to let me in, but one of them finally remembered my face. "You were the one from before, right?" he said. I nodded, and he reluctantly called the house. Someone answered. To my shock, they let me in. My heart pounded as I walked through the long driveway. The house looked even bigger now, maybe because everything else in my life felt so small. I stood at the door and knocked, afraid of what I was about to lose again. Amira opened it herself. She looked tired. Thinner. Her eyes didn't sparkle like before. She stared at me for a long time. "You really came." I nodded. "Can we talk?" She didn't move. For a second, I thought she'd close the door. But then, without a word, she stepped aside. I walked in. The air smelled like jasmine and silence. She sat across from me in the living room, legs crossed, arms folded, gaze unreadable. "So," she said. I took a deep breath. "My name is Jamal. I'm not rich. My mom sells vegetables in the market. I never went to university. I learned mechanics from a roadside garage when I was 15. I borrowed clothes just to take you out. Everything you thought I was, I wasn't." Her face didn't change. "Why did you do it?" she asked softly. "Because I thought you'd never see me otherwise," I replied. "I was wrong. You're not shallow. But I was scared. And selfish." The silence that followed felt like a punishment. Then she whispered, "Do you know what hurt me the most?" I looked at her. Not the lies. Not the fake stories. But the fact that you didn't trust me enough with your truth. I loved you. Not your wallet. Not your image. You. And you didn't believe I could love the real Jamal. My throat tightened. "I'm sorry." She nodded slowly. "I know. Is it too late?" I asked. She stood. Walked to the window. Outside, the sun was setting in golden streaks. Finally, she said, "I don't know." My heart cracked. "But," she added, "if you're ready to start over, with nothing to offer but honesty, then maybe we can try again. As friends first." I stood too. "That's all I want." We smiled for the first time in weeks. And in that moment, surrounded by silence, truth, and fading sunlight, I knew I'd never lie to anyone again, especially not the woman who once loved a poor man pretending to be a prince. The end.